Day is almost here, isn't it? For the Huskers volleyball team, that day was yesterday. Congratulations, women, you're national champs for a fourth time. For the rest of us, the weeks of busy chaos, the preparation, the high anxiety will all culminate into this wondrous, perfect day, a Christmas day that's just overflowing with peace and joy. Or will it? Everyone who has grown up in a family knows how holidays can reignite family conflicts. There isn't always harmony around the Christmas tree. And all of us can remember a time when we finally got what we wanted, that certain toy or gift, and then we opened it and found out maybe this is not what we really wanted after all. Yet on Christmas, there is a child that is the center of our celebration. The birth of a child is our gift. This gift of light, this gift of love, far exceeds all of those other gifts we might receive. Now, child can change our lives in specific ways that we're not always able to anticipate or understand. I'm quite sure that for Lauren and Bryce, that experience as new parents is really becoming a reality. It is for all of us. During these last days of Advent, let's remind ourselves that God's promise always delivers. Yes, maybe not in ways that we always think, or ways that we expect, or ways that we even want, but God's promise delivers. And in our story today, a story of two ordinary Jewish women named Mary and Elizabeth, God's activity will change the course of their lives, but not only their lives, the lives of a community that will essentially become the church community. Mary and Elizabeth will understand God's activity as it becomes manifest in their sons, Jesus and John the Baptist. It is through the lives of these two giants of the faith that light is born. God's love and God's peace and God's mercy shine down in a world that was full of darkness for so many people in that day and age. Mary and Elizabeth are stars in today's reading from the Gospel of Luke. They're stars because they are both recipients of unexpected births. Elizabeth is very old, barren, has never had a child in her life, and will conceive a child named John. Mary is a young girl of age 13 or 14, and she becomes the mother of Jesus. Both women, one who is at the beginning of their adolescent journey, the other at the end of her life, have an experience which makes them different and new. In verses 46 through 55 of the lesson, Mary breaks out in this joyful song of praise that's been captured through art and poetry and song. It's a praise. It's a song of praise for what God has done for her. It's called the Magnificat, so termed for the opening words of the Latin translation of the verse, "O magnify." And think of a magnifying glass, where Mary is looking through this magnifying glass and sensing the reality of God and God's purpose for her life in a way, a deeper way than she's ever looked at her life before. Mary's song contains the meaning and the purpose behind what these birth stories are about. In praise of God, Mary sings how God has removed the mighty from their places of power and and how God has lifted up those on the margins of life, those who have been humiliated in life. This is God's revolution taking place. The poor are filled, and the rich have to earn their own living, for their hands are now empty. The powerful rulers of the worldwide Roman Empire lose their power, for they have abused it most arrogantly. The young girl Mary is humiliated, and the oppressed Jewish people become God's beloved people. All the promises of history are being fulfilled in this song. The Magnificat, it's not just a lovely poem in our Bibles. The Magnificat is a critical analysis of the economic and political situation of the Jewish people under Roman occupation in the first century. At this time, 99% of the people who lived in the empire were poor. 99%. The Magnificat spells out this social situation. And the claim of this beautiful song is that God foresees a future that is better. Better than 99% of God's beloved people suffering in poverty and brokenness. And not only that, this promise is now. Mary's song anticipates the life of her baby Jesus and his message. In Mary's song, Jesus' life is interpreted as the beginning of a justice that's going to be worldwide for all peoples. And that is the way that Jesus perceived his life and shaped his vocation as a traveling preacher and healer and prophet of social justice. Jesus was a star. A star. Jesus was a light. The Gospel writer John says of Jesus, the true light which enlightens everyone was coming into the world. Every Christmas gives us a chance to reconnect to this light, to experience a rebirth of light. It's light that is the heart of every innocent, lovely newborn child. It is the light that is the heart of all life. Our purpose and why we have come into this world is to be filled with light and to let that light shine. Because if it weren't for light, we would not be here. Our cosmos would not be here if it were not for the birth of light. In his famous Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said, "Let your light so shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to God in heaven." So what does that mean? You let your light shine. What is your light? What does it mean for you to be reborn into light? What does it mean to say that my and your vocations as disciples of Jesus Christ is to shine so brightly that we might discover God's holy light in the midst of all of creation? Is it too arrogant for us to claim that we are light? Light from God? Light from Jesus? But doesn't Jesus have the potential to shine light into every single one of us in very mysterious and unique and wonderful ways? I think so. I'm convinced of that. Each time the children gather on the steps, and we give them a lesson and pray, and then as they leave for an activity, we go, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." And we see those little lights, those lovely lights go up the stairs and out of our midst, and then at offering and communion come back in. And we wonder, how will God's light shine in them? God's light is here and now. That's the whole message of the Magnificat, and that's a wonderful rebirth of life. The light is everywhere. The light is within us. It's out there. It's around us. And it's waiting to be reborn once again if our lives have become too dark. And for many people, it's a tough time of year because their lives are indeed broken. And their lives are dark. And that's sad. As we journey to Christmas, Bethany Christian Church, let us do so with an awareness of the light that is illuminating our heart and our mind and our spirit. Let us experience ourselves as a reflection, as a magnifying glass, a magnificat of God's holy light that's flowing through us, awakening our spirit. Mary and Elizabeth were able to do it. They were poor. They were ordinary. They were broken. They were marginalized. But they did it. They were aware of light. So like Mary and Elizabeth, Bethany Christian Church, will you see yourselves as God's companion in bringing light and healing to the places where God takes you? Love the light. Love it. And keep shining the Christ light within you for everyone to see.